strawweight division, we have Claudia Gadelha taking on Cortney Casey. Claudia Gadelha, minus 450 favorite, comeback on Casey, plus 360. After Gadelha lost that, her title shot against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and she looked great in those first 2 rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Started gassing out and got lit up for the end of round 3, all of round 4, all of round 5. Took a whole bunch of damage. I mean, we had already heard that she had left Nova and Yao heading into that fight, and she was kind of up in the air about a bunch of things. One thing I really like looking into this, going into this fight, she's been spending a whole bunch of time at Jackson Wink. What's the one thing that she's lacking is the mobility and the striking. We know that when she gets a hold of you, she can rip you down to the ground. We've seen it a million times.
Oh, yeah.
She's done it to Jędrzejczyk, and she's got some pretty decent power for the women's strawweight division in her hands. She needs to work on that mobility, and I think there's pictures of her with Holly Holm and Michelle Watterson. Just like
talk about mobility.
There's a good female group of fighters at that gym, and I think she is learning from them. So it's good to see that she's trying to make that next step, because the formula that she had to try to beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk in that last one just isn't enough. If you can't put her away in those first 2 rounds, you're not going to keep that pace up, and JJ will keep that pace up.
It's the perfect formula in a 3-round fight. And unfortunately, this girl's never going to be in a 3-round fight ever again, because she's never going to relinquish that belt, so you have to beat her in a
even if she does relinquish that belt, it's probably going to be a main event.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to figure out a new formula, because the 3-round formula is out the window for her. So I feel you, Ben.
Cortney Casey Sanchez, or Cortney Casey, I was creeping her Instagram, as I have to do, is creep everybody's Instagram. And she's, before she was Casey Sanchez, and we thought maybe she wasn't with
She's back.
Eddie Sanchez. They seem to be back together.
Not Eddie, but yeah, her husband's Rico Rodriguez's first ever and only black belt. I think John Sanchez, but Sanchez regardless. She had dropped the Sanchez, but I think they're together.
There's just levels to this game. This is not a gossip show, by the way. It's just like, I have to look at Instagram accounts to find out where these people are training half of the time, because it's tough to keep track of fighters all over the world, traveling to different gyms all over the world. Cortney Casey, I think, there's just levels to this. She took on, Ronda Marcos and got a nice submission win in her last fight there. She beat Stantu before. Stantu kind of proved that she wasn't really at this level, shouldn't be in this organization. And that fight against Marcos, Marcos is almost similar to Gadelha in the sense that she's kind of happy to grapple, but she's just not as powerful. Her striking isn't as good. Her striking isn't as powerful. She's kind of
she's like a C version.
Of Claudia Gadelha, who is an elite of elite in this division. I just think it's going to be a little. I've been tempted. To put money on Cortney Casey here, but I just think Claudia is just going to be too much, too strong. Casey's the bigger fighter. She's longer, taller and longer here, but I just think Claudia is just kind of a powerhouse, and I think she gets the decision win here. What's your take?
Yeah, I thought it was funny because, right even before we started this block, I saw this thing pop up, and it's Cortney Casey Sanchez in a terrible car crash right before accepting the Claudia Gadelha fight.
That's not good news.
Before accepting the fight. So, I mean, she's like, oh, man, that was a terrible car crash. Do you want to fight Claudia Gadelha in a big fight in Brazil? It's like, oh, yeah, I would love to. And this girl's a traveler. I think she fought in Guam. I think she fought out the Philippines way for PXC back in the day. Her husband's obviously a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's traveled the world. She's been around. She went to Poland to go train with Joanna. Yep. She likes traveling the world. So, hey, big fight up in Brazil, love to take it. A girl like that's looking for those big fights. They want those big opportunities. And Claudia Gadelha is the number 2 girl in the world, essentially. I know Karolina Kowalkiewicz will definitely be up there, but Karolina, Claudia, they're kind of on the same level. Joanna's a step above, obviously, and then everybody else is a big step below. So this is a huge opportunity if you're Cortney Casey that you can go out there and you can beat a former title challenger. You can beat someone who's
they're looking for people. There's Andrade is out there right now, but after Andrade, it's just like everyone else who is at that top of the division right now has had their shot, and other people like Rose Namajunas went up against Carolina and didn't quite pass that test. It's just
Tisha Torres got knocked off a pedestal. Like they're all, if you conceivably, other than Andrade, if you look at that top 10, they're all like that because Letourneau just lost and Calderwood just lost and Tisha Torres just lost and Rose just lost. They all just lost. So Claudia, she's no different. Now, if you're Cortney Casey, hey, I'm on a 2-fight winning streak, which is a rarity at this division. Because at this division, you win 2, you get the title shot. So she's conceivably in the mix. And she needs a big win over a girl like Claudia Gadelha. So there's nothing more that's going to motivate you than this big spot. When I really think about this, she's literally worse in every single department, right? She's known because she's a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And she's good. And I believe she's still only a purple belt, but she's good. Claudia Gadelha is a no-gi world champion at black belt. So she's the better grappler. Then you look at the wrestling. It's like, okay, Cortney Casey Sanchez, decent wrestler because she's big and she's strong. She can get some outside trips on you. She'll work the inside trip, but she likes the body lock outside trip. Look at Claudia. Claudia connects her hands around your waist. You're going for a ride. It's just the way it is. Joanna's takedown defense is the best in the division. She takes Joanna down, 5 times in that fight. She gets a hold of you, she's going to put you down. And she can get a hold of you because she can get a hold of anybody. She's big for the division. So Cortney Casey, that's another one of her tools is she's big for the division. But Claudia's big for the division. Her striking's much better than Cortney Casey. I know Sanchez has been working a lot in Arizona on her striking, and it is good, and it's getting crisper. But you'd be crazy to think that it's better than Claudia. I think Claudia's better in every single regard. The one thing that is an issue with Claudia is she's training at, and I'm going to finish this, training at Nova União, which I think these guys have not developed since 2005. But that move to Jackson is going to be the big key here, because I can never accuse these guys of anything, but she said something that I think spoke volumes to what I've been thinking for a long time. She said, they made me do a 16-week camp for Joanna. They made me train 7 days a week, 3 days a week for 12 weeks. Paul, nobody trains like that anymore. Cavemen train like that, and that's what the people from Nova União do. So that's why the team's completely fallen off the rail.
And people get injured from that gym all the
time. They all have concussions. Every single person in that gym has a concussion because you put 60, 70 people in a room and you say, well, we're going to train as hard as we possibly can every single day. That's what's going to happen. Now, listen, you're going to get some of the greatest champions ever. Aldo is one of the greatest champions ever. Renan Barão is not one of the greatest champions ever, but was a top talent. You see guys.
We've
Eduardo
seen
Dantas
people from
Bellator.
that gym. When they fall fast.
Oh, do they ever? And you know why? That's because their body's breaking. And that's the one thing in fighting that you need to hold up for you. You need your body to hold up for you. And when it starts to fail you, you're going to have massive issues. So you can't put yourself through all this wear and tear. The guys at AKA, they're learning the same thing. Kane's blowing out his knee. A guy like Khabib's blowing out his knee. These guys are getting injured because they're training so hard. There has to be that flip side to that. There has to be that, well, we need to slow things down and be a little smarter. So she said, listen, I trained so hard for that fight that I found myself gassing in the fight. Now, people might think that's crazy. Well, she's working so hard. Why is she gassing? Because her body doesn't have the energy anymore. She needed that relaxation. She needed that mental focus time. She needed all those things. Instead, she put her body through a meat grinder, and as a result, they couldn't keep up for 25 minutes. Going to Jackson's, you've now just gone to one of the smarter teams in the game. You've gone to a team that's known for their analytics, a team that's going to take care of you.
Good for their game plans, too.
So you get her, and you say, okay, well, we got Claudia Gadelha here. Okay, who's she fighting? Cortney Casey Sanchez. Okay, well, where can Cortney Casey Sanchez win this fight? Pretty much nowhere. She can't beat her standing. She can't beat her on the ground. She can't beat her. She literally can't beat her anywhere. Well, where did Claudia have trouble? She faded after 25 minutes. Don't worry. That's not even on the table here. It's a 15-minute fight. She's back home, so I know she's going to travel from Jackson's to Brazil. But guess what? Brazil's her home. She's going to be in her comfort zone. She knows that it's a must-win situation, so there's a little bit of pressure. But I think she goes out there and she has a good performance. No knock on Casey, right? There really is no knock on her. But she's not as good as Claudia in any one domain. So when I look at it and I think minus 450, I don't mind it because I think that's safe. When I look at Almeida's supposed to be safe, but there's a lot of risk there. Bader's supposed to be safe, but because they're 205 males, there's a little bit of risk there. I look at Claudia and maybe I'm being foolish, and let me know if I'm being foolish, but I don't see the risk. I see very little risk.
I see very little risk. 115-pound women, you're not going to knock out Claudia. She took an absolute thrashing from Joanna.
Twice.
And she was basically never really stumbled. She just ate them, and I don't think Cortney Casey is going to be able to land. Well, definitely not going to be able to land like Joanna Jędrzejczyk does. And I think, as you were saying, she gets that body lock. She's going to take it down. She's a legit black belt on the ground. And Cortney Casey's no slouch on the ground either, but
there's levels. Yeah, exactly. Purple belt, black belt.